You are holding a warm mug between your hands. You can feel the heat seeping into your palms, traveling up your fingers. A simple comfort you probably haven't even registered today. Or you're biting into a piece of toast, the crust crackling under your teeth, the soft inside giving way. Or maybe you're just thinking about what to make for dinner. The simple act of turning raw ingredients into something else entirely. That transformation, the alchemy of heat, time, and human intention, is so normal it's invisible. You do it without thinking. But for 99.9% of human history, your ancestors could not do this. They had never held anything warm that they had made warm. They had never tasted anything but what the sun or the air had already done to it. For millions of years, every single one of your direct ancestors ate everything raw. And then, at some impossible-to-pinpoint moment, one of them did something that changed the trajectory of our species forever. They learned to command fire, and they put food into it. If even one of those ancestors had failed to figure this out, or had been killed trying, you would not be sitting here today. The story of how we learned to cook isn't just a footnote in a history book. It is the single most important biological upgrade our lineage ever experienced. It rewired our bodies, reshaped our brains, and remade the world. And the wildest part? It probably started with a catastrophe. Let's wind the clock back. Way back. You are not you anymore. You are a small, wiry hominin standing on two legs somewhere in the scorching, dry grasslands of East Africa. The year is something like 1.8 million years ago. You are hungry. Your diet is a brutal lottery. Tough tubers you dig from the hard ground with a stick. Fibrous leaves, the occasional piece of fruit if you can beat the birds to it. And if you are phenomenally lucky and brave, a scrap of raw meat from a carcass, fighting off vultures and flies for the privilege. Your jaws are powerful. Your teeth are large and flat for grinding, and your gut is enormous. A long, energy-hungry fermentation chamber that has to work for hours to extract enough calories from this miserable, low-quality food. You spend most of your waking life just chewing. Your brain is about the size of an orange. Life is a relentless, exhausting search for fuel. And then, one day, the world burns. It's the dry season. A lightning strike, or maybe just the intense sun on a tinder dry brush, sets the savanna on fire. You have seen this before. You know the terror of it. The roaring wall of heat, the choking black smoke that blots out the sun, the panicked shrieks of animals fleeing. You run, like you always do. But when you return days later, the landscape is a charred, smoking ruin. And there, in the ashes, you smell it. A scent you have never encountered. It is rich, it is savory, it is irresistible. It is the smell of death transformed. A small animal, caught in the blaze, has been cooked. Driven by a hunger that overrides all caution, you pick up the blackened carcass. It is warm. You take a hesitant bite. The texture is wrong. It's softer. It gives way easily. The taste is different, more intense, and then you feel it. The energy. This piece of meat, which would have taken you an hour of gnawing and digesting, seems to melt into your system. You feel a surge of vitality you've never known from food. Was it like this? Of course not. We can never know the precise moment, but we know the result. Because somewhere, somehow, an ancestor of yours made a connection between fire and food. And that connection didn't just fill a belly. It sparked a biological revolution that made you possible. For generations, the use of fire would have been purely opportunistic. A gift from the heavens, a temporary boon after a wildfire. Your ancestors would have scavenged from the ashes, perhaps even carrying smoldering branches to extend the life of a precious flame, to keep predators at bay at night. But here's the first colossal leap. Moving from using fire to making fire. That's the difference between finding a battery and inventing a generator. The evidence for controlled fire, fire that humans could start, stop, and maintain, is maddeningly elusive for a long time. A wildfire leaves a broad, chaotic burn pattern. A hearth leaves a concentrated patch of ash, burnt bone, and heated stone. Finding a true hearth from 2 million years ago is the holy grail of archaeology. And for a long time, we didn't have it. The best guesses pointed to around 400,000 years ago. But then, archaeologists dug deeper. In Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, they found something that shouldn't have been there. Deep inside the cave, away from any entrance where a natural fire could have reached, they discovered a layer of ash and burnt bone fragments. Using a technique that measures the way minerals change when heated, they analyzed the soil. And the verdict was staggering. This wasn't a random burn. This was evidence of repeated, controlled fires, and it was dated to 1 million years ago, twice as old as the previous best evidence. Think about that. 1 million years ago, A group of our ancient relatives, not even Homo sapiens yet, were hauling burning material into the safe darkness of a cave and tending to it. They were socializing around it. They were, almost certainly, putting food into it. This was a home. This was a kitchen. But why? Why was this so transformative? On the surface, cooked meat just seems nicer, tastier, easier to eat. But what was happening inside the bodies of those hominins was nothing short of a biological hack. Cooking is, in effect, a form of predigestion. Heat unravels the tight proteins in meat. It softens the tough cellulose walls in plants. It breaks down complex molecules into simpler ones. Your digestive system, from your teeth to your colon, has to do far less work to get the calories out. That's the first miracle. The energy savings are enormous. A raw potato is a starchy lump that gives you very little. A cooked potato is a packet of easily accessible sugar. The same amount of food, after cooking, delivers a vastly higher net gain of energy. Now, follow that energy. Energy is everything. Gets invested in the most expensive tissue in the body, the brain. This is the counterintuitive, world-altering twist. Cooking didn't just give us better food. With the likely timeline of us mastering fire, we didn't get smart and then invent the kitchen. We invented the kitchen, and that made us smart. Your towering intellect, your ability to parse these words and hold abstract concepts, was bankrolled by a simpler gut, paid for with the calories. Because if cooking was such a brilliant survival hack, why didn't every animal figure it out? A moment of such profound crisis that it forced a cognitive leap no other creature had to make. Specific, gruesome way. The crisis wasn't just the hunger. It was the poison. Picture the world your ancestors wandered. A raw diet, especially one that leans on tubers and seeds and leaves to survive, is a constant gamble. You're ingesting low doses of natural pesticides with every bite. Your liver works overtime. Your gut aches. For a hominin with a simpler digestive tract, it's a constant drain, a silent tax on your energy and health. Eating raw meat, especially scavenged meat, is an act of biological Russian roulette. They were inviting a world of invisible invaders into their bodies. Infection, dysentery, wasting sickness, and death sentences, in evolution, are powerful selection pressures. So the crisis was this, and fire, it turns out, is the ultimate key. Heat doesn't just soften tissue. It sterilizes it. A good cook kills almost everything. Bacteria, parasites. That cooked piece of meat in the ashes wasn't just easier to chew and more energizing. It was the first truly safe meal. This changes the entire equation. They can smoke meat to preserve it. It let us exploit an ecological niche, the high-risk, high-reward world of large game and tough tubers. The campfire became the first pharmacy, and the cook was the first doctor. But this leads to the next, beautiful problem. If cooking is so vital, if it's the difference between a safe, energy-rich life and a sickly, precarious one, rain can put it out, wind can scatter it, fuel runs out. This is where the story pivots from biology to something even more profound, culture and cooperation. Protecting a fire required constant vigilance. It required someone to stay behind while others foraged. It required the first shifts, the first division of labor. It demanded trust, and we will both eat safely tonight. And what scientists found next makes the bond even deeper. It's not just about safety and calories. Firelight itself rewired our social brains. Think about the day. It's for work, foraging, hunting, processing food, watching for danger. It's transactional, full of purpose and peril. But night, around a controlled flame, was different. Here, you could relax your guard. For the first time in evolutionary history, your ancestors had a space that was secure, warm, and awake. What did they do with that time? They talked. Without the constant pressure of immediate survival, conversation could drift. It could become storytelling, planning, gossip, myth-making, in the dance of shadows. This was the cradle of complex language, of shared identity, of the bonds that glue a tribe together. The hearth became the first classroom, the first theater, the very structure of our social lives, the evening meal, the gathering after dusk. Now, let's look at the evidence. The Wonderwork Cave Hearth is one stunning data point for a cascade of changes in the archaeological record that all point to the same cause, and they see it. Look at the teeth. Around the same time we see good evidence for controlled fire, those massive, grinding molars start to shrink. The robust jawbones that anchored powerful chewing muscles become more graceful. This isn't a random shift. It's a direct consequence of not having to pulverize tough, raw food for hours every day. Before fire, stone tools are relatively simple. Sharp flakes for cutting, hand axes for butchering. But with the stability of a home base anchored by a hearth, tool complexity explodes. We see specialization, scrapers for hides, points for hunting, grinding stones for processing plants. Why? Because you can now afford to make tools for tomorrow, to teach others how to make them. The workshop was born from the fireplace. And perhaps most tellingly, look at the movement out of Africa. The first waves of hominins leaving the continent. Homo erectus spreading into Eurasia. How did they survive the winters of Georgia or the chill of China? Fire. It was our first portable climate control system. It let us turn caves into warm shelters. It let us process foods that were inedible raw in colder climates. But there's one last piece of evidence, and it's not in the dirt. It's in you. It's in your sheer, genetic inability to thrive on a truly raw diet. No human culture, anywhere, at any time, has ever survived long-term on completely raw food. Modern raw food diets rely on industrialized processes, blending, soaking, sprouting, and in many women, a cessation of menstruation. The body goes into conservation mode. It's a signal as clear as any fossil. We are not adapted to a raw world anymore. Our biology expects cooked food. Your metabolism, your teeth, your gut. So that catastrophe, that wildfire, didn't just lead to a tasty bite of meat. It triggered a cascade and fed our brains, which gave us the time and safety to forge deeper social bonds. Every single one of those steps was a link in a chain of survival. You are the product of the safe, social, intelligent world that meal made possible. And the story isn't over. Because that same flame is still shaping you, right now, in ways you've probably never considered. That warm mug in your hands, the toast you. You are not just living in the modern world. Take that feeling you get when you sit down to a hot dinner after a long, cold day. That deep, almost visceral satisfaction that goes beyond just filling your stomach. It's a safety signal. Your nervous system is registering warmth, cooked food, a protected space. When they made it back to the cave, to the fire, it's not just comfort food, it's security food. But the concept remains. It's a cultural fossil, preserved in our language because it's preserved in our DNA. Our sense of home, of true belonging, is forever tied to A. You are drawn to it for the same reasons your ancestors were. And this leads to the quiet, modern crisis. For the first time in a million years, we have managed to separate the components that fire fused together. We can have cooked food, fast, sterile, calorie-dense. You can eat a microwaved meal alone in your car, under the harsh glow of a streetlight. You can have safety without society. You can have warmth without a circle of faces. Your biology gets the cooked signal, but it's missing the communal signal. And your brain, sculpted around that fire, notices. It might explain the strange, hollow edge, the rise of the digital hearth. The glow of screens bringing people together across distances is a desperate, modern attempt to complete that circuit again. We are still trying to gather around a shared light. But the legacy of fire isn't just psychological. It's written in the most mundane details of your physical existence, which trigger your appetite and prepare your gut for digestion. A cold meal is safer than raw, sure. If you've ever tried to eat a truly tough piece of meat or a raw, dense root vegetable, you get a headache. Your ancestors did that for hours a day. Your face is literally shaped by your reliance on cooked food. Even the way you breathe is partly a gift of fire. The shorter snout and flatter face of modern humans, which allows for clearer speech. So when you look in the mirror, you are not looking at a generic primate. Your smaller stomach, your energy-hungry brain, your flat face, your social cravings. And this reframes everything we think of as human flaws. It's your body insisting on the conditions that made it possible. Your social anxiety, your deep need to feel part of a group, isn't just a psychological tick. The fire forged our capacity for loyalty, trust, and sacrifice as surely as it forged our digestion. Your love for stories, for gossip, for staying up late talking. That's the firelight legacy. Now, bring it all the way back to this moment. You are here, reading this, because a sequence of impossibly lucky, brave, and hungry ancestors passed down a singular discovery. Not just the discovery of fire, a point of warmth. That's the final, quiet gut punch. You carry that point of control inside you. The modern world can feel chaotic, raw, and dangerous. But you are the descendant of the ones who learned to take that chaos and transform it. You are relighting that oldest of human hearths. You are activating a million-year-old ritual of safety, care, and community. You are using fire, in its gentlest, most domesticated form, to do what it has always done. Or you stir a pot on the stove, or you sit down to a meal under the soft glow of a kitchen light. You are standing guard over a flame that has been kept alive for 1,000,000 years. And as long as you keep turning the raw world into something shared, that fragile, miraculous flame, so seamless that you've forgotten you're still wielding it. The click of a stove igniter. You have inherited a planet remade by that single, ancient idea. Your entire civilization is, in a very real sense, just a controlled burn that got smarter and spread. But that legacy asks something of you in return. It asks for recognition. You can have the safety without the society, the warmth without the circle. Deeper than a craving for calories, it's a homesickness for the hearth. So this isn't just a story about how you came to be. It's an invitation to remember what you are. Look at your hands. They are not the hands of a creature built to wrestle food from the wild. Your real strength was never in your jaw or your gut. So when the modern world feels cold, chaotic, or raw, you don't have to just endure it. You are equipped to transform it. You can choose to reignite the parts of the flame that matter most. Create the safe circle. It's an echo of the first safe thing your ancestors ever held. And you are not just its consumer. You are its keeper, waiting for you to recognize it in every act of warmth, every shared meal, and know that with every simple, heated gesture, you are the reason the fire never died. And you are the proof that it still burns.